Hi, I'm Mark, and this is The Country Life with Columbus Mark, where I try to give you a lighthearted look at life in the country. And today, we're in downtown Hamlet, a town of about 6,500 people. Actually, I wouldn't call that a town, it's a small city. It's known for a lot of things. One, it's the birthplace of John Coltrane, saxophonist and composer. It's the birthplace of Tom Wicker, Washington bureau chief and New York Times columnist. And it's the home place of this depot. And we're going to hear about that today from Mechelle Preslar.
Welcome to Hamlet. I'm Mechelle Preslar. I work for the City of Hamlet as the Hamlet Depot and Museums Director. We are standing in our historic depot. We also have a Hamlet Visitor Center right next door that has exhibits on Hamlet history. Across the road, we have the Tornado Building, which does not mean a storm.
That's what I thought when I saw the sign.
Right. There is a replica of a tornado steam engine in the Tornado Building. That is our transportation building. And over in our Main Street Park, we have a static display of an engine and a caboose that you can go inside. So welcome to Hamlet, and I have some of our volunteers here on our depot board that will give you some history into the depot and the railroad.
Thank you so much. Now, one question, does it cost money to come here?
This is free. The City of Hamlet owns the buildings, but we have a 501c3 nonprofit depot board that runs the gift shop. So it's free, but they do operate on donations and items that they sell in the gift shop.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having us in today.
Thank you for coming.
We're going to talk to Angie next.
Excellent.
Thank you. So now we're with Angie, and we're fortunate because Angie actually retired from the railroad. You worked for them 30 years altogether?
38 years.
38 years. That is impressive. There aren't many people stick with any one job that long. Have they all been with CSX or with different railroads?
CSX, and the predecessor railroad was Seaboard Coastline.
And Seaboard is one that was originally here.
Seaboard Airline.
Right, and she was mentioning Seaboard Airline, and the airline has nothing to do with planes. I thought it did. Explain that part.
Well, the airline doesn't have
of?
anything to do with planes because we didn't have planes in the early 1900s. Also, it doesn't have anything to do with air brakes. Rail equipment has air brakes. But the airline, back in the early 1900s, meant the distance if you would go through the air from point A to point B. That was the straightest, most direct route, and it was called an airline.
Which was new to me. I bet it was new to our listeners too, unless people are train buffs.
It was new to me.
Okay, there we go. So this is an iconic building, and yes, probably you said like one of a kind in North Carolina?
I would say this is a Queen Anne Victorian style architecture, built in 1900.
Wow.
Now I know some of the history of this building, but for the record, I wasn't here, okay? So this building built in 1900 as the headquarters for Seaboard Airline Railroad. So the upper floor had all the office buildings. The room we're in now was where passengers came to meet their train. And if you think about 120 years ago, there wasn't a Raleigh-Durham airport or a Charlotte airport to go to. Not many people had cars. If you had a car, that was a luxury. So your only method of transportation was by rail.
And actually, this room we're in is the waiting room now.
122 years later, it has the same function. Now, the only thing that's different is in the 1900s, when this was built, this building sat across the tracks. And even though it's been used as an active train station for 120 years, once we transitioned from steam locomotives to diesel locomotives, Seaboard built a new office or new yard to hump cars. They built a new yard to work on diesel locomotives. So as we got away from the steam and this building, everybody wanted to move to the modern offices. So the the rooms upstairs were no longer used.
Mm-hmm. Now, was this the actual building that was originally built and they moved it? Or
yes.
So they didn't reconstruct it from?
Believe it or not, it was moved in one piece.
Oh my.
And the way that,
when you see a picture of it, you'll be shocked.
Yes, and it took about 4 years. But what happened?
4 years.
Just to back up a little bit, Mark, is in the early 2000s, the building was in disrepair.
Really?
Now Amtrak, of course, handled all of your passenger rail. Your railroads were out of that. They only wanted to haul freight because passengers like to be on time. Passengers want to get where they're going. But what happened is CSX, who owned this area then and still does, said, hey, City of Hamlet, we'll give you this building for $1. But
Hey.
it's on our property and we want it off of our property. So not only was the building, then everyone in the city, we had some very forward-thinking people that said this is a part of our history, as you talked about. For 120 years, this is where people come. This is an icon here.
Yeah, so what year was it moved? I know it was 4 years it took to move and
In
get
the
it.
early 2000s, it was
Really?
completed in 2005.
Wow.
So what happened is, if you look directly across the road, or across the track, I should say, and they decided to move it, one, there's a huge model train exhibit downstairs, and you'll want to make sure that you cover that.
Yeah, we need to get some pictures of that. I want to see that. That's the one called the...
Right. But what's interesting with this move is, besides the fact that it took 4 years and it's moved in one piece, the basement downstairs was new. So this basement was built first.
Oh my gosh.
And this building was not only picked up, had dollies that went underneath it, and it was rolled, ramps over the
So
track.
you were around in 2000 to see that happen, right?
I was around working for the railroad, but I wasn't here. But they had people, there were cameras, it was all recorded. We have videos in our gift shop that show the whole project. We had people on the board at one time that oversaw the project. They were the project manager for this. We have a ghost upstairs that people will tell you about.
Be a whole nother story.
But that's a whole nother story. But at the end of the day, not only was it moved in one piece and it sat down a ½ inch from where they wanted it, but they spun it 90 degrees. So the front, which is to my right, where we were at the diamond, the intersection of track, they wanted it facing that same diamond.
Interesting. Tell us about that diamond. That's pretty unique.
Well, I can tell
To me,
you
it's
that
unique. I mean,
it's unique to me because none of us go to work for the railroad unless you had someone that worked before you.
oh, really? Uh-huh.
Yeah, so a diamond looked like a ring to me, or a stone. But the diamond is an intersection of track. And what made Hamlet really come to the forefront of rail travel was the fact that there was an intersection here. So you could go in 4 different areas. You could go north, you could go south towards Miami, you could go east towards Wilmington, or you could go west towards Charlotte and Atlanta. So this, back in the day, in the early 1900s, was like what you would consider Atlanta Airport or Chicago O'Hare. If you wanted to go there, you had to come here and change trains. So this town grew up around the railroad, and there, in the early 1930s, there were 30 passenger trains that came through here at a time. There were 4 sets of tracks going north and south.
Wow.
There were 2 going east and west. There was what we call a subway, which was basically a tunnel underneath the tracks because we railroaders don't like it when you cross tracks. That's against the law. You know, you got to stop, look, and listen. So what would happen is there was a hotel. There were 7 hotels here. There was an opera house. There were
I
places
think
to eat.
John Coltrane portrait, is that on, what was the Opera House?
John Coltrane.
But was that the Opera House?
No.
No.
Well, that is the back of the Opera House
Okay.
now. But John Coltrane was born in Hamlet.
I know that. We mentioned that, and quite a few people were born here that are known, but I mentioned a couple of them. So today, all these years later, this is still a large hub for CSX Railway, is it not? I mean, I saw a yard coming through town a few weeks ago that was packed with trains or engines or
They're in
cars.
storage.
In storage.
The footprint is not as large as it was in the early 50s when they built a multi-million-dollar sorting facility, what we call the hump yard, where you classified cars. If you think about UPS or your post office where stuff just gets segregated based on its destination, we did the same thing with rail cars. They no longer do that here. As CSX evolved and more railroads, and you you acquired these hump yards, they didn't need as many. So it's not what it was, but they're still here and they're still part of our history.
So how many employees for CSX do you think work around here, live around here? I mean, a bunch or just a few
I can
now?
tell you when I worked here the last time, about 10, 12 years ago, we had about 500.
Wow.
I would say you probably don't have a quarter of that now.
And amazingly, Amtrak stops here
Amtrak
twice a
comes
day.
through.
Going one direction in
That's
the,
right.
in the evening and one in the morning,
Yes.
coming back. So
Yes,
it's
it
going
does.
from where to where? What's this route generally?
Well, its route, it goes on the north-south line, so it goes as far south as Miami, and then it goes as far north up to Penn Central, New York City. So yes, it still operates 7 days a week. When the pandemic started, they did go back to service 3 or 4 days, but we are very fortunate to have them here, and there's someone that comes down here to greet the passengers. There's someone to make sure they can get on the train. The crews swap out here, so we're fortunate. They rent space from us. Right behind us is the old Ticketmaster office. A long time ago, before we had kiosks.
So they have to buy their tickets online these
Yeah,
days?
they do, but they'll have someone here. There's a kiosk around the corner. They'll have someone here to help you if you have trouble getting your ticket printed.
So do you miss working for the railroad?
I miss the people, yes. I don't miss the phone calls in the middle of the night. And you know the old song, I've been working for the railroad all the livelong day. There's a lot of truth to that. The railroad was very good to me and my family.
In your
I feel
blood?
like- I'm a first generation railroader,
Oh, really?
yeah.
First generation?
Unlike Tyree that you'll meet.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, he's got a lot of history here.
So anything else you want us to know about either Hamlet or this station?
I think if you close your eyes and you walk in here and you open your eyes, you will think you are in a museum in an urban area such as Charlotte or Raleigh. That I think it's a hidden jewel here.
It is.
And
I
it is
call
worth
this a
the
local
trip.
treasure.
It is worth the trip to come see us, and we'll show you the best restaurant in town, Seaport Station.
We had lunch there. That was very good.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
Well, Angie, thank you
great.
so much. It was great to get to meet you, and thanks
too,
for being
Mark.
on this video. And we'll look forward to touring station, take some more pictures. And have you ever been on a train out of here yourself? Ever ridden
I
the train?
have.
The Amtrak train or
Yeah,
the CSX?
Both.
Okay, was it fun?
Yes, it was.
Where were you headed? North or south?
Both.
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 Okay.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time. That's probably a good thing. All right. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
All right. I'm with Tyree now. Angie, that we just had, worked for the railroad 38 years, she said, and most of it was office type work. But Tyree here, how many years did you work for the railroad?
42.
Oh my goodness, 42 years. And let me tell you, he was on the trains. Did you spend your whole career on the trains, or did you work up to that?
I'd
or-
worked as a clerk, a yard master, a conductor, brakeman, and then engineer. So
Wow.
I did a little bit of everything.
So just for people who don't know all these terms, the engineer is actually driving the train.
He runs the train,
The conductor is
keeps up with the paperwork and everything else.
the brakeman.
Brakemen, which we don't have anymore on the trains, but when we had them,
They don't brake the trains anymore.
No,
They just
they
keep
were-
going until they run out of
They were
fuel.
there to set cars off and help the conductor.
So how do they do that today then?
The conductor does a lot of
Oh,
work.
okay, okay. So you didn't start out with CSX, did you?
I started out with Seaboard Coastline, but it
Just
was all right
okay.
here.
Okay, all right here. So this is home to you?
This is home.
So what was it like working for the railroad?
It's a different life. I always kept a packed suitcase in my truck because you were going to go every day. There was no weekends off. It was 7 days a week, 24 hours
I was
a
going to
day.
say, probably round the clock.
Yeah, I lived in a hotel half the year.
Really?
So
Really?
it was different. Good pay though.
Was it?
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Any, I mean, how many years were you an engineer?
I think I went to be an engineer in 90.
Wow.
So
And you retired?
20. So, well, 30 years.
Uh-huh. Wow. So, I mean, these locomotives, I don't know what they weigh, but we're talking about 50 tons or something, right? I mean, are they hard to drive? I mean, I can't even imagine
No, we would take it, they would train you for about 6 months. Here in Hamlet, we had about 1,300 miles of territory that we would have to learn. And so you need to know where the hills are. We have speed limits anywhere from 10 to 70 mile an hour. You needed to know where that was. And so after you do it repeatedly, you learn. And of course you had signals to look at, and slow waters and work games and stuff. So it was a lot to it.
So, ever have any close calls?
Almost daily.
Oh, really?
Almost
like
daily.
Something on the track, like a car or something?
Yeah,
or?
oh, yes. We would, unfortunately, I hit 2 cars.
Well, I mean,
and over 2 people.
Career that long, I mean, goodness
Yes.
gracious.
But it was, daily going around gates. And you became somewhat hardened to it after.
So, how long would a typical train be you might be engineering? I mean, how many cars total?
We would run anywhere from 2 to 200.
Wow, 200.
Yes.
So, when did the cabooses become a thing of the past?
They became, around the 80s, they started phasing out the caboose. And actually, Virginia was the last state in the country to require a caboose. So everything we ran north had to have a caboose. Everything else, we had the, what we call the EOT, the little flashing light on the rear.
That's it? And it's got like radio communications in there
radio
too?
communication. I've got a monitor and see what the air pressure is. I can see if it's moving, stuff like that. So
have you ever had one come unhooked while you were doing
yes,
Yes,
fall
really?
off and fall off.
The EOT thing,
Right,
the end of the train thing. You ever had cars come unhooked unexpectedly?
Yes.
What would be the cause of that?
You could break a knuckle. The knuckle could just come, the pin jump up, what we call a pin jumping up. So yeah, that was fairly common.
So up in the big engine, you call it the engine?
Yes.
How many people would be up there? What crew of what?
Me and the conductor.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow, you got a coffee pot up there?
No.
Bathroom up there?
There's a bathroom.
That's good. Can you take coffee? Can you eat
Yes.
while you're working?
Some of the Canadian engines actually had a coffee pot and a microwave. Ours didn't. But they had, over the years, they had gotten so, they were air conditioned. I would actually have to open the window to see if the horn was blowing. So
Really? Wow.
it was that quiet inside.
So all the ones do you call it driving them? Driving a train?
Running.
Running a train. Were they all diesel that when you've been working, or were they
Yes.
ever always diesel?
Always diesel.
So never had them that were gasoline operated.
No.
And not around here, no electric trains whatsoever,
No,
big overhead,
no.
and no steam was years and years and years ago.
Steam was years and
What
years.
year did that go out? Do you
It
happen
was
to remember?
sometime in the 50s, mid-50s.
And he was telling me, Tyree here, I'm in from Polk County, and you were we're talking about this place has the longest, what were you saying, straight piece of track?
Between Hamlet and Wilmington. I think it's 76.67 miles of straight track.
Wow. Have you ever?
Yes.
And is it really that straight?
It's as straight as it can, flat as a pancake.
And you were mentioning you knew of Saluda, which is the highest grade of a mainline track in America.
Correct.
Have you ever been over there to see
I've
that?
never seen it.
There hasn't been a train on that in probably 18 or 20
I
years.
would like
or
to
so.
go, but I've
you should
never
come
got
up
to.
there. So there's a million train songs out there. Do you know any train songs you sing while you're sitting up there in the cab?
No.
No? Casey Jones or any of those?
I would sing in the shower,
there you
and so
go.
we don't have a shower on the engine, so I never sang.
Or anything else you want people to know about your job, your career,
I
or
can't.
this station, or trainer life?
It was, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Would you recommend to someone who's like 18 years old to go into train work these days?
It's different work. It's not for everybody, but it's good pay. You can make a good living. So, yes, if they got the chance, and especially if you ever wanted to, that was something I always wanted to do, and I was one of the lucky ones, and I got to do it for 30 plus years.
That's fantastic.
So,
Well, Tyree, thanks for being with me today.
Thank
and we're
you.
going to stay here and do my closing, okay?
Okay.
You're good to help me do that. So thanks for watching. I'm Mark. This is The Country Life with Columbus Mark. Don't forget to subscribe, all those good things. Share with your friends. Come and visit this museum in Hamlet, North Carolina. It's worth every minute of it. Welcome to my neighborhood. Signing off. So I'm back with Tyree, because I just found out that today is his birthday.
62 years old.
62, you're young. Boy. Well, I wanted to thank you for giving up some of your birthday time to do this video.
Glad meeting y'all and glad to do it.
Happy to have you on Country Life with Columbus Mark.
Well, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.